special guest speaker. Michal Katzman is one of the community's emissaries from Israel through a program that brings students typically in their gap year after high school and before the army, though differently paced for every Israeli teenager, to spend a year here in Cleveland working and teaching and working quite a lot actually in our educational institutions, camps, youth groups, connecting in real time with young people and adults, with young children, helping them celebrate the connection that is truly rich between our community here in Cleveland and life in Israel. And this weekend in particular, we chose to highlight Michal's work and some of her observations, having spent much of the year working with our Fairmount Temple Religious School, our retreats, programs, with youth groups in the region and the like, because of the observance over the coming days of special holidays that link us here in Cleveland with life in Israel and around the world. Yom HaShoah this coming Sunday, and in the subsequent week, Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance for soldiers and those killed in terrorist attacks, and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, all of which you'll see highlighted in your announcement sheet tonight. But I'd like to invite you to pay special close attention to some of the things Michal's going to share with us tonight about her own experiences and reflections, remembrances, as we draw close to Yom HaShoah. I know that I've had a chance to take a look at the presentation that she's sharing, and I also happen to know that right now on our live stream, her mom is looking at me, so Shabbat Shalom, Karen, and to the whole Katzman family, Ba'aretz Yisrael. We wish them goodness on this Shabbat and a meaningful observance of Yom HaShoah to come. If I look especially proud, it's because Michal is living in my home, and so she's like a daughter to me. Don't let that judge anything about your feelings about her presentation tonight. I embarrass all the children in my household equally. Come on up, Michal.
So, as Rob said, my name is Michal Katzman. I am 19 years old, and I'm spending this year in Cleveland as an emissary of the Jewish Agency for Israel on a gap year program before enlisting in the Israel Defense Forces in September. During my time in Cleveland, I've been volunteering in Jewish schools, youth movements, and at various synagogues, teaching Hebrew and trying to engage with as many Jewish community members as possible, especially teens, to share with them my first-hand stories and experiences of my life in Israel. I live with my family in a small town called Even Yehuda, which is located along the Mediterranean coast, about a 30-minute drive north of Tel Aviv. My mother, Karen, directs the Israel office of the Jewish Federation of Greater Washington, and my father, Dror, is a computer analyst who works for IBM. I have 3 older brothers, Matan, 30, a captain in an IDF Reserve Infantry Reconnaissance unit, who recently finished his master's in law degree. Ariel, 28, is an electrical engineer at a high-tech company, and Ari, 23, serves in an elite medevac combat rescue unit called 669. The decision to postpone my IDF service by a year and to volunteer as an emissary in Cleveland was an obvious one for me. My mother was an emissary twice in the U.S., and I grew up hearing about the importance of the close relationship between Jews living in Israel and diaspora Jewry. I hope that by sharing a little bit about myself, you will get a better picture of what Israel is all about for me. Over the next 2 weeks, Israel will be marking what to me are some of the most important dates in the Hebrew calendar. Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day for fallen soldiers and for those who were killed in terrorist attacks, and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's 69th Independence Day. I'd like to share with you how my family, friends, community, and country commemorates Holocaust Day. At exactly 10 a.m. on the day of Yom HaShoah, a 2-minute air raid siren is sounded, and Israelis stop and stand still. No matter where they are at the time or what they were doing, the entire country comes together to mourn the victims of the Holocaust and to pay tribute to their memories. From a young age, I recall trying to understand what exactly I should be concentrating on during the 2-minute siren. And so, to guide my thoughts, each year, before the siren, my father would take out the family photo albums and slowly, methodically, look at the names on the back of each photo and tell me about each family member. They were black and white photos of my paternal grandmother's family, which, with the exception of one brother who had succeeded in escaping the Nazis, were all murdered. Her brother had settled in pre-state Israel and arranged for a Yemeni man who lived in Israel to travel to Poland to marry her. As a married woman, my grandmother, Nina, was allowed into the country, avoiding the British quotas that prevented single people from emigrating for fear that they would take up arms against the British. I grew up hearing the story that soon after she arrived in that country, my grandmother's younger brother expressed his desire to join his 2 older siblings in Israel. My grandmother wrote to him and told him that life in Israel was difficult and that it was better that he remain in Poland to weather the storm. It was a decision that she regretted until her dying day. In Israel, every 11th grade team travels to Poland on a special educational program organized by our high school and the Ministry of Education. At the end of 11th grade, students must pass matriculation exams about the Holocaust. My trip took place in November, almost 2 years ago. During this week-long trip, we visited concentration camps, towns where Jews had once lived, Jewish cemeteries, and important historical sites. We were joined by Yechiel Alexander, one of the few Jews who survived Auschwitz and who later established a family in Israel. I remember feeling angry at myself that I was unable to shed tears, even though I was walking on the ground of sites where so many Jews had suffered so terribly. How is it possible not to cry of all of these souls? I asked myself, what is wrong with me? A few days ago, I read a letter written by IDF soldier Hadar Goldin during his trip with his school while still in 11th grade. As some of you may know, and if you don't know, I will share with you, Hadar Goldin served in the Givati platoon and fought during Operation Protective Edge in 2014. While in combat, the Hamas terror organization surprised his unit by emerging from a terror tunnel they had dug. The bodies of fallen IDF soldiers Hadar Goldin and Oron Shaul were captured and have been held by Hamas in Gaza ever since. Next week, Hadar's parents and twin brother Tzul, who also participated as a combat soldier in Operation Protective Edge, will be joining this year's Israel Defense Forces annual March of Life to Poland. The Goldins will bring with them a letter which Hadar wrote to them during his Poland trip, and will read this letter while standing on the ruins of the crematorium at Auschwitz. I would like to share Hadar's letter with you today. Dear Mom and Dad, I am sitting in a train to Poland. I don't know how many other children, similar to me and different from me, sat here, and they were all Jews. They were torn from their homes, from their families, from their parents and children. They didn't know where they were being sent or where they were going, but I want to tell you that because of you, I know where I'm going. I'm going to Israel, to my country and to your country, and I understand because of you what my Israel gave me. But most of all, I understand what I need to give of myself to my country. When I look into myself, I know I have the strength to give above and beyond what is required, whether it means representing my country, our country, abroad, or in our community. I need to be honest, ethical, and smart, and if there are no other men, to be a man, and to be a person, like you always say. with my friends, in school, to succeed and to be the best I can, to represent and protect my country with weapons in the IDF, and before and after the Army, to use weapons of a different sort, and to always use the tools you have given me. Mom and Dad, I want to thank you. Everything I see in Poland brings me back to you, to my grandmothers, and the thought that Sue and I, and all of us, are the walking victory of the Jewish nation. We have an enormous task, and I'm willing to take it on myself. And this is probably the reason that from the moment I was born, you placed this mission on my shoulders. It is in your merit. I'm going to get off the train now, like so many other Jews before me. They walked their last journey and died sanctifying God's name or survived sanctifying life. I'm walking in the path they showed me, and I will grow from their ashes. I wanted to tell you that I love you with all my heart. Maybe I don't always say it, but my heart always says it. I hope my actions will show you how much I love you during all the times, even if I don't say it with words. I love you always. Yours, Hadal. And finally, just a few days ago, after reading Hadar's letter, for the first time, I was able to shed tears. Tears for not only 6 million Jews Hadar wrote to his parents about, but tears for Hadar as well. I have the privilege to be among the last generation that has the opportunity to hear the personal, first-hand stories of Holocaust survivors at ceremonies that take place throughout the country on Yom HaShoah, and in every town, city, school, and youth movement. The Holocaust for me will always be a part of me and my family's past, but it is also part of my future, my family's, community's, and country's future. The Holocaust ended with the victory of the Jewish people. The proof of that is us. And every single Jewish high-tech invention, Olympic game achievement, agriculture prize, and every grandchild and great-grandchild of a survivor who enlists in the IDF. We are proof that the Jewish people will continue to exist as a strong and proud people.
May I say on behalf of Jewish Cleveland, awesome. And to echo Hadar's letter to his parents, thank you for taking on the task of teaching and providing your knowledge and your culture and your community and your enthusiasm for Israel. It's making a big difference. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. We continue on page